Thank you, Mr O'Connor. We've seen the early parts of the election campaign dominated by the security agreement between the Solomon Islands and China. A straightforward question for you both. Is Australia less safe today because of this agreement?
I'm happy to go first. I think Australia is alongside with the United States and the United Kingdom, with India, with Japan, with many other countries in our region, in lockstep in the effort to maintain peace in our region. But I don't think we should pretend to the Australian people that we don't live in an uncertain time. I acknowledge the incredible work of my colleague, Senator Said Seselja, who's here today, and the way in which he is engaged in the Pacific. But it is a tough market. And as we're seeing right across the region, in fact, right across the world, China's influence into Africa, their influence into broader Asia, their influence into even Europe is quite phenomenal. And the Labor Party talking down our country at this time is not in our national best interests. So how are we a safer country? How are we a stronger country? Well, we're a safer country by investing in the Defence Forces. And that is exactly what this government has done. We arrested the money that was taken out of defence when Labor was in government, and we've reinstated money into defence, and we have acquired capability which will underpin our security and provide a greater capacity to contribute to the effort of the Allies over the next decades. And that is a very significant choice for people to make at this election, whether they risk those gains to go back to the uncertainty that Labor provides on national security. Brendan's very fond of bringing up John Curtin and talking about 80 years ago. And I agree with him. I mean, that was the last Labor Prime Minister who had any interest in matters of national security or defence.
Thank you. Mr O'Connor, 2 minutes.
Well, I don't agree with that, of course. I mean, Bob Hawke actually spent more money on defence per annum than the Howard government. Bob Hawke commissioned the Collins-class submarines, the only submarines we've ever had in this country. With respect to the Solomon Islands, we have failed there. We have failed to prevent a security pact between the Solomon Islands and China. And I'm not suggesting it was easy to stop, but more should have been done. The Foreign Minister should have been there. In fact, Peter, Scott Morrison should have got on the phone to the Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands and actually pleaded with him not to go down this path. We know that other Pacific Island countries are not happy with this arrangement. We needed to do more earlier. If you look at the National Security Intelligence, we were aware of the move in the Solomon Islands in this direction for years. We know they changed their affiliation from Taiwan to Beijing 3 years ago. So we had plenty of warning to be putting in an effort. But frankly, I agree with Peter that we have to invest more in defence. And things have changed now compared to 10 years ago. Of course we need to invest more, and that's why we support the investment that's being made. But you need also to deploy diplomacy. You need to invest in the region. They must be your friends, not just your neighbours. You have to treat them equally. And frankly, they don't feel we've done that because we've mocked them on things that concern them. We've derided them about their concerns about climate change. We've recently announced a policy that will invest more, helping them with aerial surveillance, helping them train their military, investing in broadcasting. Australia has to have a voice in the region. Now, Scott Morrison thinks it's funny that we would want to actually broadcast in the region. He doesn't get soft power diplomacy. He doesn't understand statecraft. He doesn't understand the region, and that's why we're in this predicament.
Mr Dutton, would you like to rebut any of that?
I certainly do. A couple of points. I want to dispel this myth that Labor's been peddling over the last few weeks that somehow the problem in the Indo-Pacific is of Australia's making. It is not. It is not. Now, if you look at Prime Minister Sogavare's own words, not just what he's had to say in the last 24 hours or so, but what he's had to say in the run-up to this agreement with China, he has not a word of criticism for our country. He's not saying that the relationship is broken. He's not saying that Australia is an unreliable partner. He's not saying that Scott Morrison hasn't engaged with him as a leader-to-leader in a leader-to-leader dialogue. He's not saying that we aren't providing support through capacity building. There's none of that coming out of the words of the Solomon Islands government. It is all coming out for political reasons from Labor. The reason that we're in the position at the moment is because under President Xi, China is on a very different path. They're amassing nuclear weapons You're seeing in the South China Sea the militarisation of 20 points of reclaimed territory. And if the Labor Party can't see that, they only see a need to bag us through the course of a campaign, then I think it demonstrates they're unfit for government at the election.